And then, of course, you're eliciting a conversation. And as you're in the course of conversation, it really comes down to the art of listening.
Welcome everybody. Today we got David Contardi from Govan Brown, an Edmonton contractor and construction management firm based out of Toronto. They specialize here in Edmonton in office and tenant improvement work downtown Edmonton. And we've worked with David and his team on a few successful projects here in town. I know he's one of our top 10 people on our list of celebrities we wanted to bring in. And David, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming down on a Friday afternoon. I know
Not
most
so sure about
contractors.
celebrity. But,
Yeah, you are a celebrity. Most contractors, FYI, don't work after lunch on Fridays.
Yeah.
But this guy does. So
Yeah.
he's like
Always working.
the leader works, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So welcome. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
So the game and this new fresh approach to tenant improvement construction in the Edmonton office market. Tell me
Yeah.
the difference between what you bring to the table versus the brand.
And I think honestly, we have a perfect synchronicity of values between the company culture and myself.
Yeah.
My boss, my direct report, Trevor Howie, who brought me on board. He had a saying: "Culture trumps strategy every time." I think that's something that I've brought with me. I've seen in my past lives what has worked for me to grow despite a downturn market, for example.
Yeah.
I think this is where our values aligned in that interview room a few years ago. And so, it's partially the Govan Brown culture, and then partially the DC Govan Brown, mix in that here.
I like that game you have. So tell me a little bit about your upbringing and/or I know your education, and you said where you worked before, and I'm familiar. What can you share with us on how you, morphed into that powerhouse so fast?
From the time I was 6 years old, had my little brother was being breastfed, and I went around the block and I charged all the kids $0.25 to come watch my mom breastfeed my little brother.
No way.
So my mom is there with
Yeah.
my younger brother, and all of a sudden I'm marching all these kids down the stairs.
All the way back then. You remember that, eh?
I remember that,
Good memory.
absolutely. I remember
Entrepreneur.
that. There was 5 or 6 kids coming down the stairs. I'd say I'm an entrepreneur, not an entrepreneur. I would call myself an entrepreneur. The entrepreneurs, they're really good. They strike out on their own. For me, as an entrepreneur, I try to find new and innovative, creative ways of doing things maybe a little wiser, a little bit, how do we do it smarter, better, faster within an organization, within a group.
Okay.
When I'm very fortunate in having, a supportive leadership and then a strong project team that it allows some of that freedom and flexibility to find maybe these slightly unique approaches. So I think that, so part of it is, there's a little bit of wiring in there from the time I'm young, but then also I've really been, I'm a huge proponent of getting as much learning and education as you can, and there's so much out there now.
From your schooling, yeah.
Yeah, you're having companies that pour knowledge and learning and growth opportunities, and I just took advantage of those. So from my time at IKEA, took advantage of all of that learning and growth that they had made available, which served me very well.
Great training ground for that, right?
Huge training ground.
With regards to business development, something
Yes.
that you are just so well known for here in the town, and I think you just knocked it out of the park. Tell me a little bit about your angle to business development with regards to attracting new business and/or getting the opportunity to bid on new office projects here in town.
What might seem a little bit unique is that I take off the hat of self-interest.
Okay.
So when I'm meeting, as I've been meeting people, my goal really is to bring value to the community. I want to bring value, truly, I want to bring value to the project, of course. And we do that through our project teams that are, corporately, we have so many value added and such a strong value proposition.
At Govan Brown.
At Govan Brown in the interior space. My role in the business development really is a networker, communicator, educator. When I'm, as I'm meeting people and growing that network, understanding the value gap between, say, Govan Brown and what we do versus my competitors, and aligning the core customer needs. So whenever you're meeting with people, whether yourself or your clients the landlords. Everyone has core needs. And so the value gap really is about understanding
That.
the difference along those needs.
And you do that by asking the right questions, or what's the, like, knowing before you meet with the client what's missing or what's needed in their equation, or how do you?
Certainly,
there
I
fast?
will. Yeah, no, it's a good question. Certainly, I'll go in anticipating what their needs may be,
Okay.
and then of course you're eliciting a conversation. And as you're in the course of conversation, it really comes down to the art of listening,
Oh yeah, definitely.
right?
That works in our business as well.
So yes, we have to have the gift of the gab, but it's really listening. It's listening to what they say, and it's listening to what they don't say. It's listening to
Tell
their
me
body language.
then, so you've rolled that into huge success, and congratulations on all your big office projects here in town. Tell us a little bit about the projects, some of your most memorable ones as of late, maybe stuff that's already public. You can share with us what you're cooking at Govan Brown.
So it's interesting. We have challenges in that regard. Sharing in terms of, so a lot of times, a lot of the clients that we'll work with, they don't want it to be public knowledge.
That you worked with them.
Correct.
Excellent. You've had a lot of success working with these big brands. Tell us maybe some insight on marketing to the next client about your past success without having to use a brand.
So on our website, you can go onto our website. You'll see we've worked with some of the top brands across Canada and North America.
And website's at www.
GovanBrown.com. Thank
I love
you.
it. I love your website. So that's where we would find exact who it is, how it worked out, and maybe some shots.
Yeah, I was happy to share that in private.
We're in a bit of a challenged market for 2020.
Yes, very challenging.
I want to speak to two sides of the challenge. So the challenge of our tenant improvement industry generally, and what's we seen as being changing. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about the challenges due to the economy and the market that we're in today.
I think that we are in a definite downturn.
Yeah.
We're in a challenging market. There's no question about that. And we're hearing the same stories from everyone across the board.
All your tenants, all your landlords.
You know, everyone's saying it's tough. However, I credit the fact that we're still finding opportunities in the market to a few different factors here.
Okay.
One being the strength of our national program. For those who aren't familiar with Govan Brown, we do about $300 million a year in projects, interior projects across Canada. Just to clarify, the mandates where we'll have a master service agreement, say an MSA, that's the ideal way that we like to work, would be in that MSA kind of a master service agreement where the nature of the relationship is predefined, fees are predefined, and so now it makes it very easy for them to engage with us. So we share and communicate regionally. We know that relationships that I have here in Edmonton might be responsible for work in Vancouver, vice versa, Toronto and Vancouver. All the different markets, there's intersection, people move. So it's that communication across the offices on how we're sharing, the clients and the decision makers that we get to share, then locally, right? So then of course we'll have that nationally that we're communicating. Then locally, it's working with the people who are here in the Edmonton,
So that's up
region.
to people like you in every city. So your coworkers
Yep.
in the business development side, chasing their respective markets, and then you bring that together on a weekly call or whatnot.
Absolutely, and
interesting.
right, from the local clients and the local contacts, we that might lead into some work down the road in another city, as they grow perhaps, and it may not. It may just be that one-off for that local client who has their location, say here in Edmonton, but nowhere else.
And any challenges beyond the economy? What other challenges are you seeing in our market, in our tenant improvement market, that you think your brand, Govan Brown, is tweaking to overcome?
I think our market has been evolving for the better, away from the stip sum race to the bottom in the weeds. There's been a lot of conversation, largely driven by the Edmonton Construction Association, which is very strong here in Edmonton, so that governments and public tenders are coming out, and much more they're using and going to QBAs, or quality-based assessments, where price isn't everything.
Yeah.
It's a portion of it, but now they're also looking for your credentials, your project team, your experience, and
Not
past
just
performance.
price.
It's not solely based on price. And people are, I think, the clients, the decision makers, and the more that I can educate my clients, that you can educate your clients, that everyone in the industry educates their clients around what really happens, getting back to that openness and transparency, that what really happens in that race to the bottom game, and who really, who wins and loses, and what do those projects look like. So I see the market is really evolving a little bit away from that trend. It's still there, don't get me wrong. And sometimes when it's a very straightforward project, there's nothing wrong with that stip sum, straightforward.
Boom, you tender it and you
tender it out and off you go. But quite often there's so many other factors that can be mitigated when you're brought in early, when people come together early to find solutions. And so you'll hear more about, for example, IPD or integrated project delivery, but it's, that's just one collaborative method. You have the design build method, there's the construction management method.
And various other acronyms that we're seeing in the market.
Yes. Yeah. And these collaborative approaches are, I think, not only the way of the future, but they save costs, they save time, they save money, they save heartache in the end. And who wants to go home at the end of the day frustrated and, watching their project go off the rails because, they were trying to save a buck and they managed themselves into misery.
So what seems to work for Govan Brown and what doesn't work for Govan Brown? What do you see in the market across Canada?
Trust is the first.
Okay.
It's the first big.
So consultants trusting contractors.
The consultant has to trust the contractor. The contractor needs to be trusting the consultant. Everyone, when you have a high degree of trust that we're all working towards the best interests of each other, not just our own best interests.
And or the tenant, like the client, right?
Right. Yes, exactly. Not just us, but beyond that, we're working for that client.
Okay.
Because if you don't have a happy client, at the end of the day, not good for your firm. And,
no.
Right?
Not good for us and bad for our reputation for recommending you, right?
Absolutely. That means that we're not just sitting there looking at our P&L and finding where can we come back.
Yep.
To make a nickel back here, but to have a long approach. And I think, so trust.
Trust, long approach.
Long view, having a long view to a client relationships.
Yeah, trust seems to be a huge factor, and it seems to settle everybody down once that's evident in the room, and it's a good feeling you get in your stomach, in the pit of your stomach, that everybody's kind of on the same page.
Right.
Do you have a secret you can share with our viewers of what the design community can do better?
I have to give hats off to all the design and architect firms that we've worked with, really, in terms of anytime it's been this collaborative approach.
That's good.
We've had an overwhelmingly positive experience. I would have to say that the community overall does a very good job that way in fostering trust, being open to saying, how are the drawings, or I have a question about this, or can we do this a different way, and being open to that feedback.
Small, right?
Small, yeah.
So definitely nobody burns that bridge. You got the Edmonton Construction, you got NAIOP, you got BOMA.
IFMA, NAC.
Yeah, they all are intertwined somehow because the members are members at other groups as well.
Correct.
And everybody's very respectful of each other's niche, market, and know-how and what they bring to the table. So I like that.
I think that for us, what we're looking to do and how we're going to grow in the market and grow in people's minds is, there's delivering great projects, bringing value beyond the project, right? Any time that we can get out there and meet people and tell them a little bit about who we are and what we do in a community like Edmonton.
That always helps.
That's going to help, absolutely.
Well, thank you, and I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chris.
For coming down and filming in our studio here, and I think the sky's the limit in 2020. I know there's a little bit of a uncertainty in the market, but good members of the community and good members of the construction market, I think, will prevail, and I know that's one of that is you. So good luck and the best in 2020. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.